Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I didn't intend to not film a YouTube video in so long, and basically what ended up happening was I'd filmed a whole video and then I lost my memory card, and I was just so gutted for so long because I put so much effort into that video. I filmed loads of clips and I also had some really nice pictures and everything on there, so I was so gutted because I lost that video. But I thought, in any case, I want to still continue to make videos, and I received some really nice messages on LinkedIn from people who'd watched my previous video saying that they found it quite insightful, and I was really flattered by that. So I thought that why not try to make another video which, instead of just being insightful, could actually even be a bit helpful to you guys. So now I've got an actual camera and I'm hoping that it will just make it a bit easier for me to make videos now. But anyway, putting that to the side, I wanted to do a video on something which would hopefully be a bit more helpful to you guys, and that is just talking about confidence, and in particular confidence in the workplace, and in particular to that, building confidence in the workplace when you're still working from home. This is actually something that a few people messaged me about, especially a lot of girls actually. So I wanted to share my own insight into the story because I am not a naturally confident person. I know that, like, you know, coming on YouTube and everything, it might appear otherwise, but really deep down, I really have struggled with my confidence in the past, and from a young age, I've always been a very quiet kid, I've always been introverted, that's just my personality. I mean, just to put it into perspective for you guys, when I was younger in school, there used to be plays, like school plays, and there's one school play which was just on the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible, and my role in that play was to be the tree from which the apple falls. So my role in that play was simply to just stand there like this and just drop an apple. So that should put it into perspective for you guys, just how shy I was. I didn't have any speaking role in that play. I have personally not been in the office since March 2020. I made perhaps 2 sporadic visits or so, but beyond that I've not been back in the office, and I don't think that we will be back in the offices even for the foreseeable future. But that doesn't mean that we can't still do things to focus on our personal development, and in particular building confidence. I know it can be hard because I found that being in the office environment was a fantastic place to build confidence, because you're talking to people, you're seeing how people behave and react to you and everything. So it is really important to have that. But then obviously, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we can't go back into our offices right now, but there are other things that we can be doing right now to help build our confidence. Over time, I've picked up a few different tips from here and there just on how to appear more confident. I thought that this video would be more valuable, perhaps coming from a person who has personally struggled with self-confidence. The reality is that when you're working for a big law firm, there's so many people around you and they're all so intelligent and successful in their own right that sometimes you can feel slightly inferior to them, or you can really start to question and doubt yourself, particularly when you come from a background where, you know, your friends or whatever, they're not in those kind of corporate roles, so you can feel really out of place. So these are the things that I wanted to talk about, and in particular I just wanted to share with you guys some really practical advice which you can apply from right now. I haven't just sort of googled these and put together a list. I've really sat down and thought about all the different tips, I've written them all down, so I'm hoping that you guys find this useful. So before just jumping straight into the tips, I think it's really important to distinguish between 2 types of confidence. The first type, I would say, is confidence in your work product, and the second type is confidence in yourself. So the first type, confidence in your work product, I would say this is more related to how confident you are in the work you are producing. So this is slightly different because you might be very confident in the work you're producing, but you might lack self-confidence, or it could be the other way around. And the second type of confidence is just confidence in yourself, so how you view yourself, how you value yourself, and how you come across when you're around other people. Both types of confidence are equally important, and different people struggle with different types. Please don't mind me if I'm looking down at my phone. I've just written some notes here, so I wanted to go through each of the points with you guys. So firstly, let's talk about building confidence in your work product. So I'm going to go through 3 pieces of advice. The first one would be to always proofread your work. And I know that probably you're going to think, oh, what a generic piece of advice, everyone knows that you should proofread your work. But really, it's especially important for lawyers, because if you think about it, the most important thing that a lawyer produces is written product, it's written Word document or whatever. And having no spelling errors, no grammatical errors in your work product, that's not something fantastic. I mean, if you think about it, when you pick up a book or a newspaper article or something, and you don't expect to see a spelling error, so when there is one, it's really, really shocking. Not having any spelling errors in your work product, that is to be expected. It's not something which you'll be praised for really, and it's kind of unfortunate because actually it can take quite a bit of time to go through a piece of work again and again and just read through it and streamline it and make it all neat and sound good. So it's easier said than done, but actually it's a step that you should never skip. And I mean, that's rich coming from me, because whenever I had exams, I never used to proofread what I wrote, and I just used to do the exam just like hand in the paper and that's it. So that was a new thing for me. It's really important to proofread every email that you write or your Word documents, everything. Please proofread it. Spend 10-20 minutes, whatever, however long it takes to just proofread it again. If it's a longer or more important or complicated document, then I tend to just print it off and go through it in paper, just because I find it easier. I remember one associate telling me that she zooms in to like 100% on Microsoft Word, and she goes through each line, line by line, just analysing what she's written. So people have different techniques and different approaches, but in any case, please do not underestimate the value of proofreading your work. When you do have a spelling error, even if it's just a tiny little error, what it does is the reader just doubts everything that you've written. I'm telling you, they just question everything that you've written, because they're going to be thinking, oh, this person hasn't really proofread their work. We're all human beings, we all make mistakes, everyone makes spelling errors. This isn't a case of being skillful and typing in a particularly neat way. It's just a case of double checking your work. So I don't want to labour the point, but I will stress its importance, because it is important. And actually going through your work for a second time with a fresh pair of eyes is really beneficial, because you can start to ask yourself questions like, okay, who is the person reading my work? Is it going to be the client? Is it going to be my supervisor or someone senior to me? You know, and you can adjust the language to suit them. You can take out unnecessary words. You can really streamline your piece of work. So use it both as a way to spot errors, but also to just streamline and really tighten your piece of work. So a second piece of advice I would give to you guys is to ask for feedback on larger pieces of work that you've completed. So this might be perhaps a document that you're drafting or something which is going out to the client. Again, this is probably something that you have been told to do already in the past, but perhaps the importance of it has been overlooked, especially when you're working on a busy matter where people just want to get things out as quickly as they can. There's deadlines to be met. It's quite easy to just simply not ask for feedback, and then you end up waiting till your mid-seat review or your end-of-seat review. So I really wouldn't recommend that. Try to drip feed your feedback throughout the duration of your seat, because then you can really feel that you are progressing in an upward curve. It's just so useful as well, especially when you've done a piece of drafting work and you want someone to really critique it, then to actually have someone who's more senior to you, someone who's more experienced, just look over your work and give you some really good practical feedback. I can't think of any other better way to improve your work. If you are going through a very busy period of time and you feel that you can't really ask for feedback in that moment of time, you know, it's fine. Just have a look at the person, your supervisor, whoever, just have a look at their calendar and just see if they have 5 minutes, 10 minutes here or there. And I'm pretty sure that they would be more than happy to give you 5 to 10 minutes of their time, just giving you their insight on your piece of work. And if anything, it's something that they will also want to do, because they also want to see you produce better and better pieces of work. My third piece of advice on this topic would be to always think about the bigger picture behind why you're doing something. So whatever piece of work that you are producing, whether it's a drafting piece or research piece or an email or whatever it is, just always try to think about why you're actually doing it. Like, who is on the receiving end of your work product? It might not be your supervisor, it might be the client at the end of it. So really think about who's going to be reading your work, think about why you're doing it. I think it's very easy to lose, especially as a trainee, to lose track of why you're doing something. It's really important to know how your work product is contributing to the bigger picture. I mean, not only will it help you to really understand the client's needs and adapt what you're doing to suit them, but it also just gives you more confidence. It makes you feel like, oh, you know, I did that. It's also very satisfying personally to see what you're doing become part of the end product. Again, there might not always be time for someone senior to you to explain the importance of what you're doing, but again, like I said previously, just find some time, have a chat, and just really try to get to grips with why you're doing something. At the beginning of my seat, generally someone would give me instructions to do something and I would just do it, and I would be so focused on just doing a good job that I wouldn't think about why I'm actually doing it. But actually, if you understand why you're doing something, the purpose behind it, that in itself makes your work products better, because you're able to just spot things. Like maybe, you know, you're reading something and you think, oh, you know, because I know that this is going to go to the client, I don't think I should use language like this. Do you see what I mean? Now, moving on to building confidence in yourself. So this is all about self-esteem and feeling confident in yourself. So I have so many tips for this, so just bear with me. So the first one is to try to do things which take you outside of your comfort zone. So by this, I don't mean doing like crazy drastic things like run a marathon or climb Mount Everest or whatever. I'm simply talking about very small things. Like it could even just be a mindset shift into saying yes to more opportunities rather than no. So for example, if a friend reaches out to you asking to meet up or whatever, you know, just saying yes rather than no. Or, you know, if someone rings you, sometimes I have a bad habit of, sometimes when people ring me, even though I can answer, I just sometimes don't feel like talking, and that's completely fine. I'm not saying you must always want to talk all the time, but sometimes I just think, you know, just pick up the phone, answer, talk to people, you know, it's a good thing to do. So of course, like, we are living in COVID times, so our ability to meet people is of course being restricted, but that doesn't stop you from perhaps meeting someone new and going for a walk in the park. Or you could always, you know, like I said, ring someone new, have a chat with someone new. You could even start a YouTube channel. So of course I'm not saying, you know, start a YouTube channel. I do find it ridiculously weird coming in front of a camera and talking. The reason why I set up this YouTube channel was simply because I wanted to test my confidence, take myself out of my comfort zone. I wanted to really get myself into that mindset of not caring about what other people think and just uploading content which I think is good. You know, I don't care what other people think of me. I really wanted to develop that kind of attitude, so that's why I did a whole YouTube channel thing. But of course, you don't need to have a YouTube channel to build confidence. There's so many other things you can do. Of course, it's not exactly the same as sitting in a restaurant and having a meal with someone or anything, but still, you know, you've got to work with the situation that you have, and regardless of the situation we're in, don't let it stop you from making some progress, because some progress is better than no progress. The second tip I have is kind of ironic coming from me, but it's all about body language. So again, a few tips here. So the first thing, fix your posture. And again, honestly, this is so ironic coming from me because I have like the worst posture ever. So I went to see a chiropractor a couple of weeks ago, and it was really beneficial. He did a whole analysis on my spine and really like helped to realign me, and he gave me an exercise band and told me to do exercises with it. And he said, for me personally, my issue is that my back muscles are really weak, which is totally understandable. I mean, I'm built like a toothpick, so but I've been doing those exercises and it has really helped just to build that level of flexibility, to just roll your shoulders back. When we were in the office, a partner did say to me, oh, you know, if you know, you should roll your shoulders back, you know, have good posture. So if someone else is telling you, probably, you know, it means something. The second tip is one that I really hate doing, but it is to make eye contact with people when you're talking to them. So, I mean, I even struggle to make eye contact with the camera, let alone real people. If you're really struggling to look into someone's eyes, just look here, like right in between the eyebrows, because it gives the impression that you're looking into their eyes. When you're making eye contact with someone, you look more engaged in the conversation, you look more interested in them. Of course, if I'm making a video, for example, and I'm like looking all the way here and I'm not really focusing, then it doesn't look very good, does it? So they say you should maintain eye contact for a few seconds and then break away, but you know, just practice. And like I said, if you feel really awkward, just look in between the eyebrows. My third tip on this might be a little bit controversial, but it's true, well, at least from what I personally experienced, and that is to just smile. I hate my smile, so I don't really like smiling that much, but it makes a massive difference when you smile at people. And just, I'm not saying walk around all the time like this, because that would be a bit awkward, but just when you see people smile, it just makes you look a lot more welcoming, very friendly, and people are attracted to people who are, you know, look open and welcoming, and they're smiling. They just have that positive energy. I mean, just think about it from your own point of view. Think about people that you've been attracted to, talk to, or whatever. They usually tend to be the people who are really smiley and positive and have that kind of positive energy about them. But please don't mistake that with being the loudest person in the room. It's really not that. It's just a case of being smiley and giving the appearance of being positive, even if you don't always feel that way, but it's about faking it till you make it. Okay, so my next tip is to surround yourself with people who actually make you feel confident. I really like this quote by Jim Rohn, which is that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think it's so true. With that in mind, just really think about who are your closest friends, who do you spend the most time with, and just think about their attitudes towards you. You know, do they motivate you? Are they encouraging? Or do they kind of put you down? And by putting you down, I don't mean, oh, are they coming at you with like with a knife, you know, threatening to bring you down. I don't mean in that way, but of course, like, I mean, with friendships, people are human, and feelings of jealousy or envy can really come into things, and it can really destroy relationships. You can ask me about that. But that aside, a good friend should be someone who is encouraging towards you, they support you, they're nice to you, of course, they use positive, kind language to uplift you. When you feel down, you feel that you can talk to them and be really open about the way you feel. It should never be the case that you feel the need to hide things, or you feel that your friends aren't really supportive, or they're not being kind towards you, or you feel the need to just sort of act a different way around them, if that makes sense. So if you do have friendships like that, no matter how old they are or how much you think you need them, you're way better off just cutting those people off. You need to cut the toxic people out of your life. Like, you're better off having no friends rather than friends who are just a bit malicious towards you, or they're not really that nice towards you. Just be wary of that. My next tip is to simply tell you guys, please cut the negative self-talk. We have all done it. It is a normal thing to do. I mean, just before making this video, in fact, I was putting it off because I was like, oh, I've not had my eyebrows done in ages, and we're in a lockdown now, so I'm not going to be able to get my eyebrows done in ages again now. But I just thought, you know what, like, no, you've got to keep going. You can't let those thoughts control your life. I'm a person who has really struggled with self-confidence. I've really struggled with coming to terms with my appearance and all those things. So I completely understand how it feels, and I understand that internal dialogue that goes on when you're having negative thoughts about yourself. And I'm not here to preach to you guys and say, oh, look, you need to love yourself and do all these crazy things, because I think that's slightly unrealistic. All I'm saying is that when you're having that kind of thought, just stop for a second, just hold the thought, acknowledge it, but just hold it. Acknowledge that you're having a negative internal dialogue with yourself, and you don't need to completely switch that around and be like, oh, I love myself, I'm very positive and all this kind of stuff. But just sometimes it's more than enough to just acknowledge that it's going on. And some things which help me with this is, say if you're criticizing your hair, like, oh, I hate my hair, it looks awful, or whatever, think of your friend saying that to herself, your best friend. You'd feel so upset. You'd think, oh, how are you saying this to yourself? You're such a beautiful person, etc, etc. The worst, oh my gosh, the thing which absolutely crumbles me is when I think, imagine your mum saying that to herself. I swear to God, oh my gosh, the thought of your mother saying something self-critical, thinking, oh, I'm aging, I don't look good. Or imagine your mother saying that about herself. That would absolutely floor me. I'd be so upset. I'd be absolutely heartbroken. I'm really close to my mum, so the thought of my mum saying anything negative about herself absolutely crumbles me, literally brings me to the point of tears. So I just think, if that's how I feel when she's saying something negative about herself, then surely me as her daughter, as something that she has produced, her offspring, if I think that way about myself, that is equally going to be really hurtful to her. And I don't want to hurt my mum, so that's just one kind of mental thought that I go through, which really helps me. It might not work for you guys. We all just need to be a bit nicer to ourselves, Again, I don't intend to make this video a video about just loving yourself, because I will be very open and honest about the fact that I can, and still am, very critical about my appearance and my confidence. I mean, I still remember walking into the first day of my work in the office and just being overwhelmed by the huge building and just thinking, oh my gosh, like, look at all these people, they look so professional, they're all very successful, they're all so confident, and I'm not like that. When you have thoughts like that, just always understand that it's not you holding yourself back, it's those thoughts. So it's really important that when you're having those thoughts, let them happen, but just try to separate them from who you are as a person. Don't sabotage yourself just by having those thoughts. I had no intention of making this video a big motivational speech, but I'm just trying to offer some practical advice to you guys, because it's a topic which is close to my heart. It's something that I personally do struggle with. It's important to share tips and what's helped me personally along the journey, and I'm still not really where I want to be. When I say this to people that, I really struggle with confidence, they say to me, oh, you come across as really confident, I don't know what you're talking about. And I think sometimes I don't acknowledge how far that I've really come, and the same will go for you guys too. Always look back on where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, and you'll see a massive improvement in your confidence. Always appreciate the fact that you've come so far, and just because you have some way to go, it doesn't mean that you can't get there, and it doesn't mean that all the progress that you made in the past is meaningless. So I hope that wasn't too deep. Like I said, I hadn't intended to make a whole motivational talk video, but I just wanted to really shed light on some of those issues. These tips which I've given, if you just try to do some of them, people will react differently to you, and it's that reaction that you get from people which will make you in turn more confident. So I hope that this video was useful. As always, feel free to drop me a message on Instagram, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. I hope I haven't waffled on too much. I really wanted to give you guys advice which is practical and stuff which has genuinely works for me, and not just like a random list of mantras or whatever from Google. So I hope that you find this somewhat useful. Really appreciate if you would subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned for more future videos. Have a good day.